Initiator Pharma is developing a drug to help all those that suffer from erectile dysfunction but can't be treated with existing drugs on the market. We are meeting with CEO Klaus Olesen to talk about the company and the upcoming IPO. How common is erectile dysfunction and why does it occur?
There are more than 300 million people suffering from erectile dysfunction worldwide, and it occurs due to disease, mainly vascular disease, but also a lot of other causes for erectile dysfunction.
Can you explain how your treatment works?
Our drug for erectile dysfunction is working by inhibition of a dopamine transporter, which increase dopamine at central level in the brain, and that will initiate erection, but it also supports erection by increasing the peripheral dopamine levels.
Most people have heard about Viagra as a treatment for erectile dysfunction. Why do we need one more ED drug?
The Viagra type of medicine is successful in many patients with erectile dysfunction, but in diabetic patients, more than 50% of them do not respond to the Viagra type of medicine. And to cover this unmet need, we think a drug like ours is required, and we think it will do the job.
What are the treatment alternatives today for those that can't use, for example, Viagra?
There's a whole guideline, often starting out with testosterone and interchanging the PDE5 inhibitors, which works similar to Viagra. And if that is not successful, we can try injection compound or injecting compounds, either directly in the penis or through the urethra. But of course, people will prefer an oral treatment as the one that we want to develop.
Can you tell us about the team behind the company?
Yeah, so the team behind the company, Initiator Pharma, is actually a very diverse group of people with a lot of skills and highly expertised in various areas. One of the key members of our team is Ulf Simonsen, the medical doctor, who's actually a world-leading expert on erectile dysfunction and is standing behind a lot of the science that is actually the basis for Initiator Pharma. Besides that, we have Michael Thompson, who is one of the most experienced preclinical and clinical developers in Denmark, who's taking many compounds from the preclinical development where we are now to the phase 2 proof of concept that we are working towards. Besides that, we have a board of highly experienced and seasoned people who's been involved with a number of companies, also both public and non-public, and taking them listings and making many deals within the biotech sector.
How does the road forward look? Tell us about the development process.
So at the current stage, we have selected our drug candidate. So that is the candidate that we're going to bring to the clinical trials. But before we can start the clinical trials, we actually need to do the CTA or IND enabling studies, which include toxicology and safety pharmacology. And so in 18 months, we'll be ready to start the clinical phase 1 trials, and then it will be followed by the phase 2 trials where we'll get the human proof of concept.
Other than your treatment for ED, you have 2 other substances. What are they?
Yeah, so when we acquired the ED project from Saniona, we also acquired 2 other assets, one for the treatment of depression and one for the treatment of neuropathic pain. They have a similar mechanism of action as we see for the ED project, but they are much earlier in the development, so they are not ready to take into clinical trial yet. So that's why we have chosen to bring ED forward, and we'll do more basic science on the 2 other projects in either collaboration with industrial partners or through soft funding.
What is the planned strategy for commercialization of the main drug?
So our plan with the ED project is to go through the clinical trials and get a phase 2 proof of concept in human. At that point, we can either make a license deal with a larger pharma or sell an entire asset.
How much money do you expect it to cost to take the drug to proof of concept?
So in our budget that we have made for the ED project, we estimate that we need to use between 60 to 80 million Swedish crowns total. That does not mean we have to go and raise 60 to 80 million Swedish, but it's the total budget. So what we are trying to do is trying to obtain soft funding or find some kind of partnership where we actually can get an income to bring this project forward.
What are the possible alternatives for the 2 other substances?
Looking at the 2 other assets, there's various options that we can choose to pursue. And I think one of the important ones could be actually finding a partner whose expertise in depression or for the neuropathic pain. So what we're looking at is trying to find soft funding for these programs.
You're a spin-out from the listed company Saniona. Why make Initiator Pharma a separate entity?
So that's probably a question for Saniona because they actually sold it, but we actually had a dialogue early on with Saniona about this, and this actually project did maybe not fit so well into the Saniona pipeline. And also when we came with our expertise of our team, with Ulf being an ED expert and Michael Thompson being a big expert on taking things to the clinic, we actually found out there was a good way to start the company by having a Saniona in the initial start of the company and then distributing their shares, Erektil, to all their shareholders.
You are currently raising 20.5 million Swedish kronor in the IPO. How will this money be used?
So the money that we'll raise in the IPO will be used in the preclinical development. That meaning taking all the studies that we need to do to be ready for the clinical phase 1 trial.
How many shares do you own in the company?
So me and the other co-founders have a little bit less than 10% each. But we also believe very much in the company, so we have all bought extra shares in the upcoming IPO.
What did you do before you became a CEO here?
I've done many things before I became the CEO of Initiator Pharma, but primarily I'm actually a scientist. So I have a structural biology background where we're looking at membrane proteins, actually transporters like the ones we're targeting here in Initiator Pharma. And besides my science career, I've also been competing in sports. So I competed in sailing for Denmark, competed twice in the Olympics and done the America's Cup actually for Sweden. So I've been doing competitive sports all my life while I've been a scientist on the side.
Finally, why do you think our viewers should invest in the company?
I think Initiator Pharma is covering an unmet medical need so that is not treated by any other treatments. And also we have a drug candidate ready to go into the clinical trials.